thank you for joining us this morning for the, Maria, I think this is our third counselor workshop, right? The last two we had quickly gone over TAP and some FAFSA, and we also threw in College Application Month. That is over in October, and it was a huge success. So thank you everyone who participated in that. So today's workshop, I am joined, well, first off, I guess I'm Daniel Cooper. I am the Communications and Outreach Manager for New York State Higher Education. I am joined today by the Grants and Scholarships Director of New York State Higher Education, Lasagna Griggs, and the New York State Higher Education Outreach Specialist, Maria Rodriguez. So welcome everybody. Today, we are going to have a very high-level overview of the TAP application and the upcoming FAFSA applications, what students should look for. Everybody knows that FAFSA is pushed off until sometime in December. Sonia, have we gotten any word on that yet?
No official date yet. It's just sometime in December.
Yeah. So we'll all just sit back and wait and hope for that. So. But we do have a lot of information. Everybody, as probably knows, they're pumping out a lot of information. It's changing every day, but there are some things that are falling into place, and we're going to go over those today. Okay, so let's jump right in. If I can get this to switch. Okay, so today's agenda. First, we're going to touch on the New York State TAP application. Everybody should have received or heard by now that the TAP application opened November 1st. We're going to go over what that means. Obviously, with the FAFSA delayed, there is some slight difference in how that's working this year. We're going to go over some TAP FAQs. You know, we have a list of things that we get asked all the time, and we're going to touch on a couple of those to help you with your students and give them some guidance. The DREAM Act. So how does the DREAM Act work with TAP? That's a big deal. It can help a lot of people, and we're going to touch on some of that information today. And then we're going to jump right into the FAFSA. The FAFSA starts with the FSA. So that's a big critical change this year. There are a lot of things changing in the whole FAFSA, but that is the first absolute step, and that you know, that's something that students can do right now to jump in and get a jump on this. We're going to go over some actual form changes for the 24-25 FAFSA, things you need to know, what are those changes, and lastly, we're going to touch on the FAFSA completion initiative. This is an initiative that can help your schools identify students who have not completed their FAFSA and really put some resources towards helping them and getting that FAFSA completion up. Okay. So the New York Student Aid Payment Application, TAP. Like I said, everybody knows by now that it opened on November 1st, but what does that mean, right? So typically, historically, the FAFSA application has to happen first. We need that data to verify and to correlate between applications. But we don't want to make students wait. We don't want to dump everybody right in the holiday season with you know, inundate them with all these applications all at once. So New York State opened it a little early. So what does that mean? How does that work? So first off, students do not have to wait to complete their TAP. Well, okay, do not have to wait to fill out their TAP application. They can get a jump on it right now, and they don't have to wait for the FAFSA to come out in order to do that. Student payment application will be saved on the HESC servers, awaiting the receipt of the student's FAFSA form. So what does that mean? That means if a student goes in, they'll create their HESC PIN if they haven't one already. They'll create their HESC PIN. They'll need, we'll go over this in a little bit more next. They'll need some identification and for verification and to go through those steps. They'll get that. They can fill out the entire form and they can submit it to be saved. New York State will save that application until February 15 of 24, in which time it'll be deleted if they haven't already submitted their FAFSA. So students that have saved their TAP application will have until February 15th to submit their FAFSA and then proceed with the submission of their TAP application. We'll get into that a little bit more in just a moment. Okay, so Maria, if you can take this, I think you have a great grasp on this.
Definitely. So as you guys know, the DreamAt had opened the door for so many students who in the past were not eligible to apply for state aid. So with this initiative, we have allowed them to apply for a lot of the program that we offer to the regular students. This is a two-part compartment when you are applying through the DreamAt. They will first have to do the New York State DreamAt application. And then, that application is open. And basically what they will do is that they will apply to New York State program through that account. A student who is applying through the DreamAt should not complete the regular TAP application, because there will not be a connection to indicate to us that this is a student that is applying through the DreamAt. So just make sure that when they do the DreamAt application within that account, they will receive all the programs, and they will just click on those, the TAP, the Excelsior, or whatever other program they are applying to or interested in applying, so that they can complete the application within that account. So basically, their component of eligibility, the students, there's an educational component where the student will have to be attending high school for 2 years, getting a high school diploma. I'm going to use the old language for the GED. I know that it has changed, but if they didn't attend a high school and they were able to get their GED, that will be also accepted. And then they will also, like, if they are already in CUNY or SUNY, they're paying the in-state tuition, they will be also eligible. And they're paying the in-state tuition not because of the residency enrollment. So, and then the immigration status, like any student who has a T visa, a U visa, or with TPS, DACA, or without lawful immigration status will be eligible to apply. We will definitely continue to provide a lot of information in our senior presentation about all the eligibility requirements for this program, but make sure that students also are completing that application if they are in that situation, so that they can then start the process of completing TAP.
Again, I know, Maria, you touched on this a couple times. I think the really big takeaway from this slide is that students who fall under this criteria need to apply for these through the DREAM Act. They can't use the regular applications.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so back to the TAP FAQs, just to give a little bit more insight into some of the top questions we get. So what do students need to complete their TAP application? So yes, we have changed the order of the TAP and the FAFSA, but it remains the same. You absolutely have to have a HESC PIN, which is our version of a HESC student account. If they have a New York State driver's license or non-driver's license ID, they'll need to provide that information in order to get verified. If they have a high school student ID number, they'll also need to submit that as part of the verification. Once the HESC PIN is created, they can go ahead and fill out and presently save the TAP application, just like they normally would. So again, when the FAFSA comes out, the student will have to go and they will have to complete the FAFSA. At the end of the FAFSA, there's a link to submit for the New York State TAP application. That link they will have to click on. Their information will be there. They will have to go through all the steps again. The information they have already submitted will be there. They can confirm it, and then they will have to submit it officially after that. They will receive, if they fill out and save the application before the FAFSA, we will be sending notifications, email, and correspondences to everyone who has a saved application to remind them of the FAFSA deadline and to encourage them to go apply for the FAFSA as soon as possible. We'll also be sending, things that they can be doing in the meantime. We have events, which we'll get to at the end. And we have emails scheduled to go out with, choke points and things that people, students, families, and contributors need to be aware of. Second, what if a student only wants to apply to TAP and they don't want to apply for the FAFSA? In this case, for the TAP application, it doesn't matter. We need that FAFSA data in order to apply for TAP. So they have to apply for FAFSA no matter what. It's not a one or other, it's a both situation. How soon after the FAFSA opens do students need to submit their applications? Again, as I mentioned a couple of times, the deadline for New York State higher education to save information that has been submitted prior to the FAFSA is February 15th. If a FAFSA application is not submitted for a student that has a saved TAP application, that information will be deleted and that student will be required to fill out the entire TAP application from scratch, all over again. Oh, I think we had a question here. Sonia, you might be able to answer this better. The question is, what if a student is eligible for TAP but not for FAFSA?
You still need to apply, complete the FAFSA, because we use data from the FAFSA application to validate certain components of the TAP application.
And I think just adding on that in order for students to be considered for institutional aid that the colleges will give the student, they will have to complete FAFSA and TAP, even if they feel that they don't qualify.
Yep. The message that higher education is sending out this year is, well, we do it every year, but specifically this year, is that the FAFSA is absolutely the first stop for all financial aid. We're going to get to one of the last slides here, some bullet points on the FAFSA and why it's so important that students apply for it. Like Maria just said, the institutional aid, as Sonia has said, that they can't receive any of the grants and scholarships that like Excelsior and TAP, those kind of things need to be through the FAFSA. But there's some other really big bullet points, not specifically for New York, but that are also make it equally as important, which we'll get to. Okay, a better FAFSA. So Maria, if you can take over here really quick, we're just going to do a quick overview.
I know we have been bombarding you guys with all the new changes to the FAFSA. And, it's basically, this is the campaign that the federal government is doing with this flyer to indicate better FAFSA, better future. But the changes basically are to improve the processing system that the federal government uses to allow more students to qualify for Pell. And in addition to the processing changes that are happening in the back, the FAFSA application is also having major changes to it. And, some of those changes, I believe we discussed them when we did the workshop a few months, not a few months ago. I think it was October 5th.
Yeah. Well.
So, the bigger changes, and I think the main one is the date that FAFSA is now opening up sometime in December. We keep telling you that we're hoping by this time we will have at a specific day, and unfortunately we do not. We're still waiting for that magic day in December. We're hoping that it's earlier instead of later, because we know that December is one of those months that is, vacation mode. But we, basically this is changes that are happening because of the Future Act and the Simplification Act. And each of them are responsible for making changes to, in the case of the Future Act, is basically allowing the federal government to get information for your federal tax information directly to the FAFSA application. And then the Simplification Act is making changes to the application itself. Okay, we can move forward.
So one moment here, we had a question on the DREAM Act. So the question is it a mistake on our end that when we are trying to do DREAM, it only showing the 23-24 and not 24-25? Sonia, any idea on that?
I sent that question to our ITS people, and I'll have an answer before the end of the webinar.
Fantastic, great, thank you. Okay.
And another major change that is coming to the FAFSA is the creation of the FSA ID. In the past, as you guys know, we were able to start completing the application without having an FSA ID account. This year, that is no longer the case. There need to create an FSA ID or a federal student aid account, I think is the new term that they will be using, even though that we probably for this remaining of this year, we will still say FSA ID, but it's changing. Now the student have to create the account and the contributors. And it's important that you guys also know that for that process to take place, you need 1 to 3 business days so that the Social Security Administration is able to verify who you are. So we are encouraging counselors to really work with the students and the family to make sure that they are creating those accounts now. We don't want to wait to December because, as we all know, when FAFSA opens up, usually the system crashes for the first few days, and you know, we don't want you to find yourself in that situation. So if you guys can really plan in having students and their family or whoever is a contributor create that account now, it really will help them so that when FAFSA opens up in December, they will then be able to just start completing the application. Another new information that we have is about, you know, as you know, now, even parents that don't have a Social Security number will need to create an FSA ID. So it's important for family to also start that process. And I know that with this group of people, it's a very touchy situation because a lot of them are very hesitant to provide this type of information. But the way that they are going to be, you know, facilitating this is that they will then have to create an account, and then they will be using knowledge-based questions in order for the federal government to verify who they are. And the company that they will be using is TransUnion. The good thing about this is that when they create that account and that account is passed or it has been verified, then they don't have to wait as the other group of students who are creating it with their Social Security number. This is an instant verification, and then they can start the process of completing the application. But they will have to also create an FSA ID account or a federal student account.
And I will just add here, because I've gotten this question multiple times, is as far as we know, and Sonia, you can correct me if I'm wrong, as far as we know, there will be no TransUnion option for students with a Social Security number. They won't have the option to do the instant verification. It'll be the 1 to 3 days only.
Right. So because anyone with a Social Security number must go through the regular process. Anyone without a Social Security number can go through the new process that just went into place. Well, it's in a test phase still, so they demoed it last week. Another thing I wanted to add to the FSA ID. So FSA is federal student aid, so it's their ID, so they can create their account. In the past, families have come to FAFSA completion events and they did their FSA ID while they were doing the FAFSA. That is no longer an option. Students and parents must have their FSA ID at the time they do the application, because right now for 24-25, you cannot access the FAFSA without an FSA ID. So everyone, another new thing is that everyone whose income information is reported on the FAFSA must have an FSA ID, because now they must sign it. In the past, only one parent had to sign, the student and just one parent. Now both parents will need to sign. And the reason for that is because the income information is being verified directly from the Internal Revenue Service. In the past, with the IRS data retrieval tool, parents were given permission for their information to be downloaded. Now, anyone who files a tax return, or if anyone who doesn't file a tax return, the Internal Revenue Service is saying anyone whose income is on the application, they're calling them contributors. So a contributor must give consent for the Internal Revenue Service to verify their income information. So those are some of the major changes that we have coming up. And so for school counselors, if you want to be able to help your families expedite the process, many schools are doing FAFSA ID, FSA ID workshops. So to help the student get it, some are creating classes or having it as a class assignment that the student does their FSA ID, which is great because we see more students coming into workshops with their FSA ID than we do parents. But you may be able to offer workshops for parents during Regents Weeks, or during a period of time when you're going to have parents on site, on campus anyway, for some other purpose, they can do an FSA ID. So the important thing is to make sure that we get them prepared for the FAFSA.
So I will also add here really quickly, just to keep moving things along. We very highly recommend that they not only have their FSA IDs built prior to any events you guys have in your schools to help students, but you should also know that the FAFSA, it would be very difficult and maybe even technologically challenging a little bit to have it all done in one sitting, whereas that was possible before. It's almost better to have, say, the parent or the parent contributor, and then if you wanted to complete that with the student in one sitting, you could do that. But that previous version, that previous side, the other side, the parent side, has to be done prior to that. Or else it would be very challenging to have it all done in one time. So, Sonia, I believe the only way to do that, right, is for the parent. The parent would have to submit and then email a code or something, right, to the student.
So for 24-25, if the parent starts the FAFSA, they have to input the student information. So they can complete the whole application and just have the student sign it at the end. Whereas if the student starts it, they can only do their section of the application.
That's
They'll
right.
have to, they send the parent a secure link where they are accessing their form. So it is hard to do it in one setting this time.
Yeah, so just wanted to make note of that order, that if it's done in one way, it might be a little bit more fluid. The second way, it would have to almost be broke up into 2 sessions. So we have some questions here. What sort of identification is valid for parents without a Social Security? So those will be knowledge-based, typical TransUnion-esque questions. So,
if
you
you go to
lived
the
in a
next
house,
slide,
what color was your
Daniel,
house?
so that they go to the next slide so that they can see when they're doing the FSA ID, there's a question
Yep,
that you see how they indicate I don't have a social.
Yep.
And then that will prompt all the system that Daniel was just discussing.
Right. So the questions will be, knowledge based to them. It'll ask about, what road you lived on in the 1980s, or, what color car you had, or, they're very general, vague questions, but they're multiple choice, and, there's only one answer that fits based on your criteria or your history. We had another question. Is there a step-by-step flyer that we can mail out to our seniors that they can work with their parents? So
I'm going to put one in the chat,
Yep.
the address for it from the Department of Ed.
Very, very cool.
Yes,
Thank
and I
you.
saw a video yesterday, also that they are putting in place. It's not a step-by-step process. I have been using the old video for that because it's going to be the same. It's just that the application is going to now indicate for those families who do not have a social. Otherwise, it's the same, and then that you're not allowed to start the application without the FSA ID, but the video is really good. And I think we have it on the resources
We do.
page that
Yeah.
we will present to you later on.
Okay. So just a really quick flow chart here, and we're not going to go over every step by step just to save time. But the ID match and the verification flow, you know, for users with Social Security, users without a Social Security, the ID proofing you'll see there at the bottom is the knowledge-based questions. Then the user ends up getting verified, and if not, then, you know, regardless, the user has to contact the SSA to resolve. Okay, so the really quick changes. Some of you guys, if you've attended some of our previous ones, we've only made a few small changes to this list. Maria, you can bullet through these.
Definitely. So as you probably know by this time, some of the major changes is the date. So now it's going to open sometime in December. The expected family contribution was changed to student aid index. The number of questions was also reduced from like about 30 to 60, depending on your family income. Now the student will be able to add up to 20 colleges when there are adding colleges to their list. You know, everyone's that is reporting income must have to have a verified FSA ID prior to being able to complete their session. And then the Pell eligibility for individuals that being incarcerated are lifted. So now that they are eligible to apply. And then all applicants and contributors must consent so that their federal tax information is directly transferred to their application. Some of the changes also in income that was before added as income, such as child support. A family would have had a business with 100 or less employee. They didn't have to put that information in the FAFSA. Now they need to. So it's important for you guys to just be aware of those changes because, you know, it might affect some family. And then the definition of family size has also changed. In the past, if there was more than one student attending college, that was part of like adding a extra credit for the family, that is gone. So there's so many great things coming with the changes that FAFSA is having this year. And then there's other ones that might affect family as well. And I think as we, help you through the process of helping students complete FAFSA and TAP, our goal is to just really make sure that family are aware of those changes. But in the long run, the thing is that, you know, those changes are also coming to allow more family to be eligible for federal aid.
Okay, so Sonia, we're gonna go through a couple of the screenshots that the student aid has released already. Sonia is gonna just kind of jump through these, and any questions along the way, just feel free to pop in.
So this is the home page or the landing page for what the FAFSA is expected to look like for the 24-25 academic year. And when they access this application, they click on start the new form, and it takes them to their account where they put in their FSA ID information before they get to the FAFSA. Next slide. So here's the login page for the FSA ID. Once they log in, then they should come to the page that is the interview form for the FAFSA application. So the thing about the better FAFSA is that it's a different experience. It's a different user experience as a student is going through the application process. So when they're going through the application process, When they start at this time, they'll identify themselves as the student or the parent, and then they'll hit continue. And then they come to interview type form. So the first part of the interview form is a discussion of what is the FAFSA form. So there's an overview of what the FAFSA form is for, who uses it, and, basically an interview into what the application will do for them. So these were they're calling onboarding questions. The next one, then they speak to each person who's going to be putting information on the application, either the parent or a spouse or just a student. So it also provides information on how the student will invite others to provide information on their application. And then the third thing is an overview of what to expect throughout the process. And see, it says here that it will take about an hour. So that is why we think that is a two-step process, because it's taken longer. I can do a FAFSA in my sleep in 20 minutes or less. My husband says I have done that actually, but the application process now, because each person is going through this onboarding process, it may take longer. So, and then the fourth step is an overview of what happens after they've submitted the FAFSA application. So once you submit the FAFSA form, it tells you what to expect. So you've gone through all four of these steps, but you haven't gotten to the FAFSA form yet. You've just been through the onboarding process. And at the bottom of this screen, you'll see where it says Start FAFSA form.
Yep. So again, that's a big difference. Before, I think a lot of that is just trying to get information across to the students and families, right? The contributors, what to expect, what the differences are, and really nail home that there are separate sections now that have to be done separately by separate contributors before you even get to the FAFSA. So again, all important changes. We're not going to go into the FAFSA. As many of you guys know, they have released a public version for questions, right, and comments, and I think they rescinded that. I think they took it off for a while. I think it's back out again, Sonia.
Well, there's a 30-day comment period. So if they made any changes during that 30 days, they would have to take it down, make the updates, and put it back for another 30-day comment period.
Okay.
So that's part of the approval process for the release of a federal form.
Right. So I know a couple of weeks ago on one of their conferences, one of their seminars, they said they were hoping to give the public and professionals and organizations 60-day notice. Obviously, that's not going to happen. 60 days would take us over the new year. So let's hope for maybe 30 or so at least, huh? So we're pushing that, I guess. Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit from the FAFSA just because there's no real reason to go into a step-by-step, although we do have a step-by-step event scheduled, and which we will get to in a moment. There's still changes being made, so it might be prudent to wait on that and not misdirect anything. Okay, so the next thing we want to touch on is the FAFSA completion initiative. Sonia, you can touch base on this a little bit more and what it is and how it can really help schools.
Yes, this is one of my favorite things that we do here at Higher Education Services Corporation, because many counselors will get notifications on globally an aggregated count or percentage of how many of their students have completed the FAFSA. But that doesn't help you when you're trying to get to each student individually. So what the state of New York, what we're doing at HESC is that we have a contract or a memorandum of understanding with the Department of Education to where we get all the ISAR, the FAFSA information for every student who is attending a New York State high school. And we know who's attending a New York State high school because it's a question on the FAFSA. So as we're getting the FAFSA information in for students, we're also able to tell you at your school who at your school has completed a FAFSA application as well as a TAP application. So this is called the FAFSA Completion Initiative. It is something that you have to sign up for to receive, and this is initiated by your school superintendent. So get on the school superintendent and tell them you want student level data for the FAFSA information so that you can help your students complete the forms. Because students will tell you, yeah, I did it. Yeah, they may not have. So, but this lets you know who started the form and completed it, who started the form, and it may be in a reject status or an unsigned status, and who also submitted their TAP application. So you get about 4 pieces of data, and there's no personally identifiable information on the FAFSA Completion Initiative spreadsheet of information that you get. It's just a student name for your school and the status of their application. You don't even have to tell us who's at your school because we get that information from the New York State Department of Education. So everything that you want to know, we have, but you have to sign an agreement because you're going into our database to get information on a weekly basis. So sign off on that data, on the agreement. It goes through our security people. They sign you up for an account, and you can access that information. So I strongly recommend that schools get this so that they can get the student level data for their students.
Yep, and I'll just add there, Sonia, you touched on it exactly. Any school in New York State school district can sign up for this. They just need the data access and security agreement. From the time the school signs that to the time they are able to get it is probably about a week, Sonia, right?
Yes.
On average. So this is a really good time to be signing up for that and being ready for the FAFSA drop in December. It couldn't be a better time to try to encourage your districts to get this information. It costs you nothing and it gives you everything.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're just gonna finish up here with a few of the FAFSA facts. So obviously everybody knows the FAFSA is a big deal. It is a lot of free money for students. So New York State on average historically has left over $250 million unclaimed by students who have not submitted their FAFSA. That means that students who are qualified, who in some way think they might not be, who have missed the opportunity, are afraid to, are confused on the application for whatever reason. They haven't submitted their FAFSA application and they are leaving money on the table. This is a lot of money. It's free money, and we want to bring that number down. We want to bring it way, way, way down. On top of that, as we already said, the FAFSA is the first step. So yes, they may or may not qualify for the FAFSA, but if they submit the FAFSA, they can submit other applications like the TAP and the Excelsior. These are, again, this is money left on the table. The TAP and Excelsior money isn't even in with this figure. This is only the FAFSA figure. So again, whatever the reasons, if they don't feel they can qualify, we really want to get that information out there that they should do it regardless. It doesn't matter if they think they shouldn't, they should. Secondly, students can appeal their case to the college financial office. So if for some reason they get rejected or there's an error or whatever, they should bring they should elevate that to the next level, right? There's absolutely nothing for them to lose in doing so. And then, as I said, it also qualifies them for additional aid. So I think somebody had raised their hand here, but I don't see a question. Okay, so wait, what if a parent had an FSA many years ago, but do not remember any of the information asked for? Well, that's an interesting question. So I would assume there's a forget my password, right, Sonia, for an email address. If they'd have no access to that email address, what would they do then, Sonia?
So then they call the 1-800-4FED-AID information hotline. And then that individual who answers the phone can help them get to the point to where it can be reset. So sometimes that takes about 45 minutes for you to get someone on the phone. And I always recommend it at the first part of the day so that the first set of phone calls that are coming in. But yes, it can be done. If they don't have the same cell phone number and they don't have the same email address, they will have to contact Federal Student Aid. But otherwise, they can use forgot password or forgot user ID. So this is coming from Michelle, who's in the Syracuse City School District. So Michelle, if you have any trouble with it, just give me a call.
Yes, and let me tell you, there's a video that walk you through that process as well. So just make sure that you become best friend with the federal YouTube channel, because they provide video to help you navigate that.
Yep, and we're gonna list those resources at the end as well if somebody doesn't have those. So, okay, so one of the last things we want to touch on is the upcoming events. HESC always has events. We have lots of events. You're almost surely going to see Maria in there, or one of her outreach staff. So what do we got? We have what do we have in December specifically? What seniors need to know? These are general presentations. They have a lot of general information about what's available. Maria and the crew can answer any questions, any concerns they have. Basically, she sheds light on anything that they might not know, but they need to know. And again, just going over all of the options of financial aid and the steps that seniors should be doing right now to prepare for that. Another really good thing we have, again, we're really pushing the FSA ID as an action item for every student and every family contributor at this point. Before the FAFSA drops, every Monday and pretty much every Monday and Friday, I think, Maria, right through December, pretty much, we have a create your FSA ID presentation. This is a very, very simple process. Maria will walk through the entire process every Monday and Friday. She'll answer any questions, any sticking points. But again, this is a very simple process. I think the entire presentation takes about 15 minutes, something like that.
For me, it's 20.
No, that's great. Yeah, that's great. And then again, we're in no rush. If there's questions, we're happy to stay on and answer those for students and or families. The HESC virtual drop-in lounge. So this is kind of a free-for-all drop-in, right? Students, families, counselors, anybody can drop in and ask us questions one-to-one. I know we have a backlog right now on making appointments. We're probably over a week out, right, on calls. Well, this can get you answers instantly. So we have these every week. I think, Maria, we have 2 every week. This is a fantastic opportunity to connect directly with HESC and get help on anything you want to know. We can answer any kind of questions, and like I said, it's kind of just a dumping ground free for all. Okay, so on to the FAFSA. In early January, Sonia and her team are going to be doing a full and complete walkthrough with the FAFSA. This is a 100% walkthrough on every question, the sticking points, the choking points, things you need to know. Basically, it's a 100% nuts and bolts. Any addition on that, Sonia?
This is the same event that we've been doing for the past 8 or 9 years. I'll go through the FAFSA, and we'll also have Mike Turner go through the TAP application. So it's one of the most attended events that's offered through collaboration with the New York State Financial Aid Administrators Association and New York State Higher Education Services Corporation. We've been doing it for years. So this time we're doing it in January, because I know for sure that even if the FAFSA drops in December, no one's really interested in hearing a whole lot about it in late December. Their mind is not on financial aid. So we're shooting for an early January date to do the webinar, and it will be recorded. So if you sign up to attend but are unable to attend, it will be recording, and you'll get an email notice of the link for the recording.
Great. And I think I don't think we're going to also have some other NYSFA partnership events coming up. I know that schedule is being discussed and finalized fairly soon, I believe. And we'll be releasing those as well. Those are targeted FAFSA and TAP application workthroughs and events for counselors and counselor trainings. Again, some of these, I think, Sonia, are specifically for the counselors, not, for FAFSA, right? Or not for students and families. And then lastly, HESC will also be doing our own FAFSA and TAP completion events. So these are events that are exceptionally popular. They fill up exceptionally fast. We usually have to cut them off. They're fairly large and they're time consuming because these are step-by-step one-on-ones to help students and families with their FAFSA. As I said earlier, there's some difficulties this year that we haven't had previously where, there's that extra layer of, with the contributors, whereas the parent and the student. So, that order is going to be a very big deal this year. Okay, so the last thing we want to touch on here is the resources. And again, we're not going to click into any of these or anything. We're going to send this presentation out to everybody who attended here today, so you're going to have these. But we have our events page. We have contact information for pre-college services. The FSA Outreach YouTube, which has all of their training, everything they've put out as far as guidance and things to know is on that YouTube channel. NCAN, if anybody is not using or perusing NCAN website as far as the FAFSA training and toolkits that they have, they should be. NCAN is on top of everything that comes out in real time, and it's a fantastic source for everything FAFSA. The New York State FAFSA Completion Initiative, again, we highly encourage your school districts to get involved in this. This is very important information that can help guide your students and really help hone in on who might need help with their FAFSA and help encourage them with moving forward, and whatever their difficulties are, it can identify all those students. The prototype release, again, this is a prototype for the FAFSA, but it is out there. Hopefully it's close to final, we'll see. And then again, the final student aid resources. This is a recent one page that they put out, which has a whole bunch of exceptional resources for financial aid professionals. Well, I don't see anything coming in, so we won't use up any of your busy morning time here, guys. So again, feel free to reach out to us anytime, and we really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us.